Doc, Lurch, and Greg. We're just waiting on Philip to get into Discord here before we really get everything finalized. But we're here as we are every Wednesday night from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. A little bit slow on the draw today. Not a whole lot happened this week compared to most weeks. There weren't a lot of like movie things going on. Only one updated episode on the CW. So it might be a little bit more sparse of an episode than normal, just to warn everybody. For those who don't know, we're Eclectic Endeavors. We're part of the group that brings you the Gaming Arts Media Entertainment Expo and the Picnic at the End of the Universe. And of course, the game days over at the Holdfast Brewing Company on the third of every month, third Wednesday of every month. You'll actually see Greg there instead of here when that happens. Usually brings along several board games to play. He's going to start bringing a few of the more quick games too, so that means you can jump in with a quick game just to get your feet wet. And then maybe once he gets a group of people around, then he'll open something meatier. They've also got the puzzle battles there where they open up puzzles and have teams try to put puzzles together. And they usually have a good selection of brews and food. The food's excellent over there. So definitely check that out. I'm the director of cross promotions for Eclectic Endeavors, meaning my job is to go out and try to tell other people about our convention. Greg over there across from me that you can see right now, he's our director of
Hello.
tabletop gaming. So he handles board and card games and role-playing games at the convention. And if you've ever been to one of our actual conventions, that's one of the busiest areas of the con. We have, 2-3 dozen tables, and there's sometimes when they're all full and people are waiting. There are people playing everything. We've got a huge lending library, which coincidentally 2/3 of which is from mine and Greg's private collection as it is. We provide a lot of the board games for the lending librry.
We had about 400 titles at one point.
Yeah, and over 100 of each comes from us. And then Chris Stewart and a couple of the others make up the rest. Oh, it looks like Philip might have joined us. Let's see if I can switch over to. Yeah, just waiting for his Discord to finish loading. Why do I have to adjust this every freaking week? It's like the centering on these ones change from week to week. Oh well. Let's see. Go here real quick. Hey, what's up, Legacy? Welcome to the chat channel. Yeah, we're just getting a couple things finished here and ready to go. And let's see here.
Yeah. I had to use Task Manager to kill Discord so I could finally get it to relaunch.
Yep, still not seen your cam yet.
You don't see my cam yet?
At least not on the. Let me see here. Okay, I see your cam. So now.
Okay.
Let's see. What is it? Oh, hold on. I know what I need to do. Let's do that. There we go. I just had to switch it so that yours and Greg's and my positions changed because it was aimed over where my cam would be.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry for the technical difficulties, folks. We are live. It's just that we're running a little bit late, and like I said, there wasn't a whole lot in the nerd sphere this week to do as far as like movies, entertainment stuff. So we're still kind of trying to get all that going. Let's see, make sure I've got.
Well, we got a few things in the video game.
Yeah, luckily we got some stuff on the other side of things.
We got E3 coming up this month, and so there's some news coming out. I don't know if you saw. I also shared an article about Jupiter's Legacy as well.
I saw that, and I want to get into that one because, of course, I watched all of Jupiter's Legacy, so that sounds quite interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
but we do have EC Legacy already in channel ready. I think he's becoming one of our semi-regular listeners, so it's always good to see him. And I already did the kind of spiel about who me and Greg were. As far as Lurch, there down at the bottom, he's our chairman this year for Eclectic Endeavors. And in the past years, all but like the first year, he was director of electronic gaming. So he is our current guru when it comes to anything having to do with a console. If it's got a console, he's probably got a version of that console in his house, and it's hooked up to a TV, no matter how old it is. And he's got games for it. So old and new, you want console games, you go to Lurch. And as always, we're a nonprofit organization, which means everything we make over and above anything that it takes to run our conventions and stuff actually goes towards furthering the nerdy arts. And in addition to that, my channel, which we're broadcasting on, is dedicated to Extra Life, which is part of the Children's Miracle Network. So anything I make as far as payouts from Twitch for my own thing gets split between maintenance fees and going back to Extra Life. So I don't make a profit on this at all either. Just wanted to point that out. Now let's get going. See. Let's go ahead and start with one of Philip, since he's got the most stuff to talk about this week. Let's see here. Let's see which comes up first. The Crisis Remastered, it looks like, came up first. You want to try that one?
Sure. Yeah, okay.
That's a classic.
Yeah, Crisis was a classic PC trilogy of games that... There for a long time, Crisis was the game that people would use as like the benchmark of, do you have a badass gaming PC? If it can play Crisis on high settings, then it's a badass gaming PC. People joked about how this thing could melt. Yes,
yeah, it was one of the big shooter games.
Yeah, and it's one, so since I didn't do a lot of PC gaming and everyone always made such a big deal specifically about Crisis not being worth playing unless you're on a really high-end PC, I kind of skipped over this in the past. But they remastered the original game already, and they're working on remastering the second and third games, and then releasing them all as a bundle as the Crisis Remastered Trilogy. Later, they're saying this fall. We'll see.
And it looks like it's going to be on
I've kind of gotten a little
too.
skeptical about any release dates these days. Yeah, it'll be on console and PC.
So you won't have to necessarily have that high-end PC.
I'm planning on picking this up and playing it on my PS5.
Right.
Surely it'll play it well.
Right. Well, I mean,
it'll
considering
probably be a little dated by now.
At the time, it was burning out PCs. Nowadays, it probably a laptop off the rack could probably play it, but
maybe I don't remember what its specs are going to be.
The original version could probably be played off a laptop off the rack, but if they add any extra oomph to it, then you still might need a mid to high level graphics card and stuff, or a console. What's great about consoles? It's all built into the system.
These were definitely games that caught my eye the first time around. I remember looking in magazines, reading about them in magazines and watching videos about them and being like, man, I wish I could afford a computer strong enough to run that.
Well, and if you look at the character there on the Crisis thing, I mean, I know it's not him, but it's very reminiscent of what eventually Master Sergeant looked like. So you can tell that other games were inspired by this game.
Master Sergeant?
From
Master Chief?
Master Chief, that's what I'm thinking.
Oh.
I didn't play those games, but I remember the character. But isn't it reminiscent of Master Chief quite a bit? I mean, you can see it's an evolution into Master Chief.
Master Chief looks like, it looks like metallic armor whereas this looks like mechanical muscles. It looks like a high-end muscle suit.
I'm thinking more around the headgear.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, granted, a lot of headgear kind of looks similar to that, but you can see where this eventually might have evolved into Master Chief and some of the other more modern looks.
Actually, I believe Halo came out before Crisis.
Did it? Oh, well, then maybe I'm wrong.
Pretty sure it did.
Hey, I've been wrong before. It'll happen again.
I would need a reminder of when Crisis originally released, but the original Halo came out in like 2001, November 2001.
Let's see here. I can check that on one of my other windows.
Yeah.
Which came first, Crisis or Halo?
Let's see. Yeah, it looks like it originally came out in 2007, which is the year Halo 3 came out. So
of course, Halo 3 was.
So this came out. So this came out the same year as the third Halo.
Of course, like I said, that was the big Halo. Oh, let's do a quick sound check while I'm here. Check 1 2. Quick sound check while I'm here. Check 1 2.
Check 1 2.
Check 1 2.
Check 1 2.
Yep, we're all in there. Okay.
All right. Cool.
Yeah. Legacy just said, just look up the release date, which is what Philip did while I was asking more of a Google question. I do that. We try to do multiple methods to find answers to our things.
I'm better at remembering console game releases than PC game releases for obvious reasons.
And I didn't play either game. And I didn't play either game, so for me they were just kind of there in the background because I don't do shooters. The last time I really played a shooter was like GoldenEye.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I don't know if it was in the first one, but one of these Crisis games, at least one of them, has a bow and arrow in it, which seems really out of place for the futuristic.
That would have appealed to me more.
But it still excited me a lot. I was like, man, I want to use that bow and arrow with that muscle exoskeleton.
Right.
Oh, that'd be cool. But
plus a lot of combat trained troops learned things like crossbows and bows and arrows still, because you gotta have your low tech stuff that's quiet and can be improvised in an emergency. And a bow and arrow can be improvised, not necessarily the perfect accuracy of a modern bow and arrow, but still.
Yeah. But something I always found. I thought this was something worth bringing up, that this classic PC game is being re-released with some updates and on modern consoles. Should be a good time. It might feel a little dated by today's standards, but it was the coup de grace of high-end graphic cards back in the day.
Yeah, and we're getting a lot of we're having a renaissance of games being remastered and re-released because I don't know if that's partly because of all the closings of the different online stores to have access to the older versions, causing people to really clamor for them, or it's just there's a nostalgia surge again, and some of these kids that never played the games that we played when we were kids are now wanting to try and hear and play the games that we're talking about all the time. But there's a big resurgence of remastering and reimagining some of our classic games.
like the Final Fantasy VII remake intro grade, the PS5 version of the game comes out this month, and so you'll get the update to that, and also they're putting out some extra story content with Yuffie in it as a playable character.
Speaking of,
I'm looking forward to that.
I did download and install Final Fantasy 14 on my PS4, but all I've done is make a character and get right to the starting city, and then I had to go to dialysis. So I haven't had a chance to really play it yet.
Was that like 2 nights ago? Last night or night before?
Oh no, I did it like a week ago or something. But
Okay.
why did you get a
I
notification?
at one point I logged into my PlayStation and I saw it said that you had been on Final Fantasy 14 recently, and I was like, "Hey,
Yeah,
he
that's
downloaded it."
yeah. I did download it. I just haven't had a chance to play it. In fact, last week for one of my shows, I gave the viewers the option of which game I would play, and that was one of them. But nobody picked it. So
Hmm.
one of the downsides to playing it on stream is that I don't have a camera for my PlayStation. So if I play that, they don't get to see as much camera, and I don't get as much chat room interaction because I'd be chatting on my phone while I, played the
Do
game.
you not? Oh, you stream directly off of the PlayStation. You don't
Yeah, I
use it
do.
hooked up to your computer.
Yeah, I don't have that set up.
Gotcha.
I need to look into getting that. Once we move, that'll probably be one of the things that I do is get one of those set up so that I can do that, and then I can
Yeah.
add the and still have my overlays and do
Mm-hmm.
all my extra stuff and just have my laptop to the side so that I can chat and everything and stream from the
Yeah.
laptop and play directly from the PlayStation.
Yep. That's how I do it. I run it through an Elgato video capture device. It's
Yeah,
pretty
I
great.
just don't have a video capture device. I've kind
Yeah.
of looked around at prices, but I haven't got one yet.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all I have for the Crisis stuff. Keep an eye out for it. No actual exact release date, just sometime this fall, they say.
Okay, now we're going to go ahead and grab one of Greg's topics. Let's see here. Um, accept cookies. What we have here, the next Ticket to Ride game. You want to do that one?
Yeah, let's do that one. But first, a quick update on my topic last week, the Phase Anatomy Kickstarter. It did go up on the 28th, and it's already hit its pledge goal of $10,000, and it's up to its third stretch goal.
Nice.
The top stretch goal that has been announced is at 16,000. They're going to add medical drawings of some of the made-up fantastical diseases into the book. So I'm really looking forward to that. And it's a cheap Kickstarter to join in. You can get the PDF for I think
Wait,
$10.
are you talking about Ticket to Ride, or are you talking about something else?
No, he's
I'm talking
updating
about
us on
Phase
last
Anatomy.
week's Phase Anatomy before Ticket to Ride.
Oh,
You
okay.
may not have caught Phase Anatomy last week, but it's a Kickstarter, and he just wanted to update us on the Kickstarter status before he jumped into Ticket to
Sorry.
Ride.
Yeah, it's okay.
I was reading the Ticket to Ride stuff as you started talking, and I got my
Wires
stories
crossed.
confused together. Yeah, I got my wires crossed. I'm sorry.
Well, that's because I have Ticket to Ride up on the screen.
I just wanted to update now that the Kickstarter is actually out and I can speak to what's actually on the website. You can back the PDF for $10 or $30 for the hard copy. So it's
And
not too bad.
for book backing, that's not bad.
Yeah, especially with professional layout and illustrations.
Oh yeah,
But
no,
yeah.
that's not bad at all. Okay.
But anyway, Ticket to Ride.
About Ticket to Ride, yeah.
Yeah, they've done so many games for the 2 to 4 player crowd. I think they've had a couple for up to 5 players. The next one they're doing is a solo game, and it looks like it's going to be a puzzle game with the different
switching
sets.
Tracks.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think what to compare it to because it doesn't look like anything I've ever seen before, except maybe when I was a little kid and I would just play with my dad's train set and just go ham with the tracks and lay out the most convoluted, impossible things that I could, and then just have fun moving the cars back and forth and clacking the train connectors together.
Yeah, that to me would probably be the big appeal because I'm not a big Ticket to Ride fan, but I do like playing with trains. That's just one of the games that just doesn't interest me so much.
But it looks like it has a learning curve because I can see different numbers of stars on the instruction cards.
Probably
and
for
I don't
difficulty.
know how. Yeah, I don't know how the casing goes together. If there's different surfaces to make different orientations of train cars, but I'm guessing there's a learning curve because the objective seems to be to solve the puzzle in as few moves as possible. So it's like game one, just figure out how to do the thing, and then as you progress, just find out
Try to
ways
get
to,
it done faster and faster.
yeah, with more efficient timing.
Hmm. It does. It says down here on the right-hand side, rules complexity very low. So the rules are simple, but it could still be a challenging game once you get over that. Once you
Oh yeah,
get the
there's
more
a lot of
complex designs.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. The Ticket to Ride games tend to be very family friendly, and then they even did a My First. I think they did a My First Ticket to Ride version for like 3 and 4 year olds that are that level of accessible.
that's
It's
pretty
gonna,
accessible. Yeah.
yeah, it's gonna release in October for $25. So I'm guessing that it is gonna be
Ooh.
pretty low on the age
Did-
accessibility angle.
Yeah, 25. That's a low price point.
Ages.
So
Oh yeah, I can barely read on the cover. Single player ages 8 and up includes 40 puzzles.
Yeah, I'm reading on some of the details here. It says, in the case of track switcher, players must slide their train engine around slotted tracks in the board, collecting and connecting multicolored carriages in a specific order to solve each of the 40 puzzles.
I'm also
And
seeing
it,
multiple boxes and multiple engines, so I'm wondering if certain engines have to connect to certain colors of boxes, if it's just a color-coded thing. I don't know. I'm hoping that there'll be multiple layers of complexity, and then after you finish the first levels, you can just build on more about it, like kind of like a board game version of what's it, The Witness.
hmm. And there's a big kind of push in board games to try to make more and more solo adaptations of some of them
Mm-hmm.
because well, with nothing else, COVID have people staying home, so they're not gathering together to play the games. So there's people wanting to play solo games, but even before that, when you can't always get a group of people together, you might want to pop open a game and play a solo version. So they're
Yeah, to the point.
starting to make more and more solo-ish versions of games.
Yeah, to the
Solitaire
point where
starts to get old after a
mainstream.
while.
Yeah, to the point where even mainstream like multiplayer games have included in the rules text a solo version.
Oh yeah,
Imagine someone soloing Uno.
or Monopoly.
Reverse! Oh, man! I reversed myself.
Soloing Monopoly or
Or who do you
or
apologize
soloing
to and
Clue.
sorry?
or Clue, soloing Clue.
Oh, yeah.
Those would be interesting. But yeah, so there is a big push right now in the industry to try to market to all the different types of gamers out there, which is great. I think it's a wonderful way that the gaming industry is going because there are times when I don't have a chance to grab 2 or 3 friends and play a game. It's just me. And I want to play something, and having a solo version of a game is a great way to do that. And then there are times when you want to just, you want to play something like a puzzle, and this looks like it would fit both, even though, like you said, I'm not a big Ticket to Ride person. That doesn't mean I wouldn't necessarily like this one, because it's more set around like puzzles and stuff, and I love puzzles.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do we think Sheldon would like it?
Sheldon
Cooper.
it has trains, so 12, I think.
Yeah. He likes
trains.
tabletop games. He likes trains.
Yeah. He likes
He'd
puzzles.
Probably
might-
solve all the puzzles within half an hour, but then he'd just play with the trains for the hell of it.
Yes. So I stick with my 12 rating on a scale
Also,
of 1 to 10.
Also, that casing, I can tell that that's a drawer coming out on the right side
Yes,
that's
I
got
love
room
that.
for the cards and the
Pieces.
train component. So I'm wondering if this is also like a travel game, something that you can just take with you. So, I've got I've got 15 minutes to kill during a shift break, or I'm meeting somebody, but the bus is late. I'll just open this out on a table or on a park bench and play Ticket to Ride for a few minutes.
Play a couple of cards. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that carry case build. The way it looks like it's going to be really convenient.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm reading more of the details here. It's saying that players must track the number of moves they take on a dial, aiming to use as few turns as possible to solve the scenario and earn the most stars, meaning the train can leave on time.
Nice.
So yeah, basically the things we're assuming based on the art is pretty much exactly what it is when you read the details. That's pretty great.
Okay.
It talks about upping, later puzzles, up the difficulty by adding multiple locomotives and up to 5 wagons, and include broken tracks.
And the Ticket to Ride people tend to be pretty good about that. What you see is what you get, and when they do a version of Ticket to Ride, they tell you straight up, like, here's what we added.
Yeah,
take it or leave it.
Right. Yeah, transparency is a good thing. All right. Well, that's a good update, and it looks like it's going to be a good game, especially for those soloists out there looking for something else to do. And the Ticket to Ride enthusiasts, which is actually there's a big group of board gamers that love Ticket to Ride. I'm just happen not to be one of them. But that's just my own foible. We each have games we like and don't like. Like I don't like shooters, but we talk about shooters here still, and that's fine. I don't have to like everything you like, and vice versa. That's one of the things that the cornerstone of our subculture is the fact that you don't have to like the same things. You just have to agree to disagree sometimes, and let live and let live. All right, that's good. Now, one of the things I was going to talk about this week, especially with not a lot of media going on, is I mentioned it a couple weeks before, and now I'm going to keep doing it. Every week I'm going to try to point people at an old movie or old franchise to go back to. Of course, we started with that Tag movie, which was great, with Jeremy Renner. And this week, just the past couple of days, I've been visiting. I don't have a splash screen or anything set up for it, but the big movie that I want to point out was actually reminded. I was reminded by one of the random Facebook videos. It was one of those where it says, never mess with the quiet guy, and it was a little clip from an old favorite classic martial arts set called American Ninja with Michael Dudikoff. And so I've been rewatching the Michael Dudikoff American Ninja series. Now, if you like classic old martial arts movies without, not necessarily running someone like Van Damme or Steven Seagal, which is a little bit more memorable. Not everybody remembers Michael Dudikoff, but he was pretty much your standard Caucasian ninja. Not what you'd expect from a ninja, but he also had, for most of the movies, he had a African-American sidekick called Jackson. In fact, before the Action Jackson movies, he was sometimes referred to as Action Jackson. He loved to take his shirt off and just show his muscular open chest as he, did martial arts, sword play, or toted a great big machine gun out. But they were Army. They started in the Army and everything, and Joe, which is Michael Dudikoff's character, is a amnesiac. He was found as a boy in his 11, 12-year-old, something like that, and he couldn't remember anything from his past, and so he'd been through several foster homes and stuff, and he was just named Joe Armstrong, and he's very quiet and keeps himself, but he pops up with these massive martial arts skills, which he don't even remember anybody teaching him or nothing.
I don't mean to interrupt, but wasn't Joe Armstrong also the name of a gorilla in a movie in the 90s?
It could have been. I don't remember. Might have to look that up. But
Yeah.
yeah, Joe Armstrong was the main character. You find out later in the movie that he was raised by a Korean or no, a Japanese refugee soldier who had found him as a baby, and had raised him until they were separated by an explosion when he was like a young teen, preteen, and he had named him Joe because that's the only Caucasian name he knew. So because they all called all the soldiers Joe, so they named him Joe. Uh, and he had taught him the ways of ninjutsu, and you actually meet
Now,
up with this Asian guy because he's the groundskeeper for the bad guy in the first movie. And all he does is he keeps the guy's plants and stuff until he meets up and helps Joe remember his background and everything. And they fight ninjas. And this is in the earlier heyday before ninjas got really, really big, where everybody and their brother knew what a ninja was. So you could actually see a movie where people were like, "What's a ninja?" Nowadays, you say, "What's a ninja?" They look at you really funny. It's like, wait a minute, where have you been for the last 50 years?
I am ninja. You are ninja.
Especially in our nerd culture,
Oh, I forgot about that.
we know pirates, we know ninjas, we know all of that stuff. Yes. But anyway, there's 5 movies in the series, and luckily, I did find that if for the free streaming service, Tubi has all 5 of them.
Oh,
So if you want to go watch them, you can go onto Tubi and watch them. Just do a search for American Ninja, and
Tubi is spelled Tubi, correct?
yes, Tubi.
Yeah.
So go to Tubi and watch them. I mean, you'll watch them with commercials because Tubi, that's how it gets paid. But
Yeah.
still, it's available. Then that means you don't have to worry about having that specific streaming service that has it. It's an older series, and they've got all 5 of them. Now, the first 2 feature Michael Dudikoff's character. The third one has the black character Jackson, but the main character is a different American ninja named Sean. And then I'm to the 4th movie, which brings Sean and Dudikoff together. So Joe and Sean are both in it. Now the Sean character is a boy whose dad was a martial arts competitor who was killed by mobsters when he was a kid, and then his raising was being taken over by his own Sifu, who taught him. Sifu means master, of course, in Cantonese, and he was taught the ways of ninjutsu by his master, and then we get to see him as the U.S. karate champion in his movie. And then, like I said, in the 4th movie, the 2 are brought together to work together, but there's no Jackson in that one. So there's an African American sidekick character, but it's not Jackson, and he's more nerdy. He's not a big buff, Army Ranger. He's just a more of a techie guy, although he did, I guess, make his marksman training and stuff. And then I'm not to the 5th yet rewatching, so I need to be reminded. Now, the first 3 of them actually had theatrical releases, and then 4 and 5, I believe, were released directly to DVD, which is like telling back in the day, a lot of movies ended up doing that. Nowadays, we really measure success by whether it goes to theatrical or direct to DVD release. So anyway, that's my nostalgia pick for the week. And if you like good old martial arts movies, check out Michael Dudikoff's American Ninja, because you'll find that, like me, you like Michael Dudikoff.
Yeah. The cover of the first movie looks like Dudikoff having a sword while wearing army fatigues, slashing down at a ninja who's like defending in front of an American flag.
Yep. Yeah, that's one of the main covers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before we move on from that too far, just the 2 things that I found from looking up the name. First, the gorilla movie I was thinking of was Mighty Joe Young, not Joe Armstrong.
Okay.
Not really that close, but my brain kind of
There's a Joe in there.
I can see it.
But what I found more fascinating, and where Joe Armstrong did actually ring a bell, it just went the wrong direction. I don't remember what role he plays, so I'm probably going to get like massacred by people. But one of the members of Green Day is Billy Joe Armstrong.
Oh yeah, the front man.
Yeah,
is he
he's
the
front
singer?
Man.
Is the front man?
Yep,
Okay.
he's the front man.
I knew he was either the front man or the guitarist. I couldn't remember for sure which. I'm not a big Green Day fan, so
He's vocalist and rhythm guitarist, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was kind of there.
Yeah,
I was like, he either plays guitar or he sings. He does both.
All right. But yeah, and of course, music's just another side panel of nerddom, and everybody's got a little bit of a music nerd in them. They just have to pick the genre they like the most. I like a lot of different music myself.
Just ask Mikey Mason.
Yeah, right.
I think we all like Mikey Mason, though.
Those who are not familiar, Mikey Mason wrote that seminal tune that's on YouTube that you can find. She Don't Like Firefly, which is one of my favorites. Also, the best game ever, which I have the T-shirt for that one. He was.
Oh my god!
He's been a guest at Game a couple of times and over at VisionCon too. And luckily, and he does the Saturday morning cartoon montage, which I love when he gets there and does that. So check out Mikey Mason too. You can find him.
I love his Alan Moore's beard.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you can find him. If
I
you
think
go
he's working on a new album, and he does live streams on his Facebook occasionally.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does live streams for various stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's go into one of you guys' topics again. I think we're back around to Philip, so let's see which one we've got next in your.
We'll go into God of War next. We'll go into God of War.
Let's find it then. Let's see. God of War. Okay.
Yeah. So
next God of War delayed. Okay.
Yep. So God of War Ragnarok, the next God of War game, is now officially been delayed to 2022. Which has been suspected for a while. They
kind of mark of the time.
Folks over at Santa Monica Studios has been saying they're aiming for 2021. But no matter how much they put a lot of work into things, but you got to trust Cory Balrog and the other developers there that they're doing the right thing by postponing it to 2022. They want to make sure the game is as good as it can be. Yeah. Without the they don't want to sacrifice quality or the well-being of their staff.
Right.
Because the main things that's holding them up is motion capture. Because they have to get motion capture actors together with all the equipment to capture them doing all the movements and stuff for the for everything. For all the
there's
movement.
A big chunk of time when not a lot of people were coming in to physically be there because of COVID-19. So that makes sense.
That's the big thing that's really held them up. They've done what they could, like they were sending home little studio kits for people to set up in their garages so they can do certain amounts of stuff.
Right.
But there's a lot of interactive, a lot of interactions between different characters and objects that they just
there's only so much
those home kits.
There's only so much you can make portable on a motion capture kit. Yeah.
Yeah.
You need the big studio for a lot of the big motion capture scenes. So, I mean, we're micronizing. We're getting smaller and smaller and making it to where eventually you'll be able to do some motion capture in a smaller space if you set up a blue screen or something. But
I think the biggest part of it is, being able to get two of the actors together on the same stage to do their activities, especially since, we don't know anything about the story. We don't know much about the story of the next game other than presuming it's going to pick up shortly after the last game. And, you got, Kratos and his son Atreus, aka Loki, and they're being challenged by Thor. And that's about all we know about the next game in terms of story stuff. And there was a lot of interactions between Kratos and Atreus in the previous game that I anticipate continuing on in the next game.
And sometimes you want the capture to
So
be closely interactive enough.
authentic.
Yeah, you don't just want them
Yeah.
going against a figurative character because you want some of that resistance and stuff when a
Hmm.
punch hits, even if it's not a full pressure punch. You want to see them kind of have resistance and stuff, and not try to fake the resistance, which is
Yeah.
one of the things with motion capture.
Yeah. And then the new Horizon game, Horizon Forbidden West, which last week we got, we briefly talked about how they were going to be showing a big gameplay footage thing, which I watched it Thursday.
Yeah,
God, it
how
was
was that?
gorgeous. Like
Oh,
watching that,
Mm.
I loved every second of it.
Greg was going to
Like,
try to watch that too. Did you get a chance?
I didn't get around to it. This last week was hell
Uh,
on wheels.
yeah,
well, then I guess
I
you need
couldn't
this
watch it.
update too.
I wasn't able to watch the Horizon Forbidden West footage live. I had to watch it on YouTube a little late, a little bit after because I was doing stuff for work, But what is kind of insane to me, and I want to mention, they're aiming to get Horizon Forbidden West out this holiday, but they aren't 100% certain that they'll get it up by holiday, and so they're being honest about that. They're saying it might slip into 2022, but they're aiming for holiday this year. But
And another
it has
big
a
thing
similar
is,
kind of issues as God of War with the motion capture stuff.
yeah, and again, don't rush it. Put out the
Mm-hmm.
quality product. That's what we want.
But it looks amazing. It's got all kinds of new tricks that you can do. Like you got this little glider thing, so you can like jump off of a ledge and glide down to land behind things. My biggest gripe
A
about the
flying
first game
squirrel.
was my main complaint about the first game was the human to human conflict. Whenever you were fighting a human, the combat against robots was awesome. Combat against humans was really lackluster. And they made the point to show that combat in this game against humans has been significantly overhauled and improved in a lot of ways.
Oh,
And
that's
so
good.
I'm actually looking forward to seeing how playing that out. And
Do you have a
see, there was
link
the
for
glider,
the
there's a hook shot
YouTube?
thing, so you can a link for the YouTube.
Yeah, because you could throw it in our chat channel.
Yeah, you know what? That
Yeah,
would
that'd
be
be nice.
super easy to do.
Yeah, because after this is over with, at some time when I get a chance, I'm going to want to watch it. And I know Greg wants to watch it because he wanted to watch it last week when it was live, but I guess didn't get around to
Yeah.
it.
Here's what's kind of crazy though is it's 14 almost 14 minutes of gameplay. But what's insane to me is there's been some controversy popping out over this game, over this footage, because people aren't happy with. Well, most of the complaints are people not being happy with how the Aloy, the main character, looks. They're saying that she doesn't look feminine enough. But look at these cheeks. That she doesn't look feminine enough. She's got, she needs to be a little more. Her face and her body needs to be more curvy. It's like we're in a post-apocalypse with this young woman fighting dinosaurs. She's not going to wear makeup and look like a supermodel all day.
Right? Did you just put that in Facebook and not on the chat?
Did we lose Doc? Did I lose
No,
you
I'm
guys?
here. I'm here.
Yeah, you put it in the messenger.
Okay. Everything on my end froze for a second. So so there was people that was complaining about how she doesn't look feminine enough. Which there was someone I follow on Twitter made a Facebook comment. He's like, I can't believe all I'm seeing on Twitter today is people upset about how Aloy's cheeks, and then people spun off that and started tagging him a bunch because of cheeks. Some slang meaning ass cheeks or whatever. And so he's like come back later going, oh God, what have I done? All these tags I'm getting. Not those cheeks, guys. Not those cheeks. I mean the face cheeks.
I'm looking at a close up right now of her face. She looks a little bit different than she did in the first game. Her face is a little fuller, but whatever.
Yeah. Right?
She's older. I don't know how much time has passed between the first game and the second one.
Yeah. I'm not sure either. I've heard that it was 6 months. I don't know if that's accurate. And then also, there was another person I saw someone else griping about how this game is just doing things that other games have done, like the gliding they took from Zelda Breath of the Wild, the hook shot they got from...
Which they took from Far Cry, and they probably took it from somebody else.
Yeah.
Somebody's always taking from somebody.
I had to give a big response to that and be like, pretending like it was the 90s, and like, man, this Sonic the Hedgehog may look great to you guys, but it's just a ripoff of other games. Like Mario, he goes from left to right. Like,
one side scroller, another side scroller. Hey, guess what? That's kind of how it works.
Yeah.
That's why it's called a side scroller.
Yeah.
Platformers, jumping, come on. So derivative.
Yeah.
But I am super stoked for both of these games. Horizon, Forbidden West, and God of War. Both of them they also have announced will be on, and we know this about Horizon, but we just learned this about God of War. They will be on both PS4 and PS5.
Which is nice because a lot of things are going to stop producing for PS4, but there's still a lot of PS4 gamers out there that want them.
Yeah, there's somewhere in the ballpark. My numbers might be a little bit off. I think there's somewhere around 115, 120 million PS4s out there. And we're up to somewhere around 8 or 9 million PS5s in the wild.
Yeah.
They're selling them as fast as they get making them, though.
And I don't have a 5 yet, and don't know when or if I'll even get one. I may never get one before I die.
So, on one hand, I mean, as long as the PS5 version isn't, sort of being held back by the PS4 versions,
I'm good with it,
right?
Yeah.
But because of the technology, like at a certain point, because of the technology difference between PS4 and PS5, there are game design choices that can be made on PS5 that can't be done on PS4. Like Ratchet and Clank, like the new Ratchet and Clank that comes out this month, Rift Apart, would not work on a PS4 in a fun way. Because it has to be able to like instantly load all these different worlds instantly.
And the load time is just apples to oranges.
The load time on the PS4 would drag that down, whereas the PS5 is just snapping through instantly.
Make it feel stilted and hiccupy.
Yeah.
And PlayStation's gotten enough guff over the years for their long load times.
Mm-hmm.
And then the same thing with Returnal. Returnal was a recent PS5 only release that came out. That's very, very fast paced with all kinds of particles and different changes and stuff that I don't think would run nearly as well on the PS4 because the pace that has to do all these high-end visuals.
And the PS4 version would have to preload a lot of artwork, which means you'd have to have a huge amount of like extra space in there just to be able to run it.
Yeah.
And
so when these games come out, I know the PS5 version will run better. It'll have some sort of extra perks to it. But since they are sequels of really amazing PS4 games, I don't imagine it hurting my experience really because I'm already accustomed to this franchise, this game running the way it ran before, just smoother and prettier, and with some new tricks to it.
Like this opening scene here, that's got some good use of color and everything. Okay, well, that's another great update. Let's go ahead and go on to see Greg's next thing, which was probably
the Queer Games bundle. Yep.
Queer Games bundle. There we go. All right, I've got it up on screen.
Sweet. So last year, when the Black Lives Matter protests started ramping up, somebody organized a bundle for racial justice on itch.io that was several hundred games for a very reasonable price. I think it was like $50. and Itch is back at it again. It's Pride Month,
Right?
and tis the season for companies and individuals to add banners to their social media profiles and uh, and post emojis and shout their support. But how many of them actually do something about it? Well, I'm going to buy this regardless because I was impressed enough by the last bundle that I'm willing to put my faith in this project. They are trying to raise their goal is $5 million, but whatever money they make is going to be split among all the creators. There's like 160 something creators, I think, all of whom are queer. So whatever money you put towards this will go towards people who are actually trying to make it as creators. According to the details on their bundle, it says if we had a third of the budget of a AAA game, we could give every solo developer a livable wage for a year and every single team a massive funding boost. So that right there talks to just how much money goes into some of these larger projects and how much even a single person could benefit and how much more they could produce just from a few extra bucks.
And they're almost to 33,000 already.
Yeah, and this sale goes until July 4th.
So
And
there's still plenty of time.
Yeah, plenty of time. There's in the neighborhood of 200 titles, and if you did back the bundle for racial justice and you're worried about overlap, I've skimmed through the entire list of titles. I only saw one title that was in the previous bundle. So a lot of new content.
I don't buy a lot
And
of bundles, but I do encourage people to support something like this.
yeah, lot of small creators. And if the previous bundle was anything to go by, some games were purely conceptual, some were proofs of concept, some were like 5 to 10 minutes long and then you're done. Some of them I've played 3 times and have gotten thorough enjoyment out of them. There was a deck building game where you had conversations with NPCs by playing cards against them and skewing your deck to get along better with certain kinds of people, and that was an outstanding story game. So even
Right.
if it's kind of like Extra Credit says with their games you might not have tried, they may not all be good, but they will be interesting. And just skimming through, I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of story games, a lot of games that try to express in through metaphor or whatever means they try the queer experience, being queer and closeted, coming out, just growing up, trying to find out who you are.
Feeling like an outcast sometimes.
I saw. Yeah, exactly. There's one called Exile.
Mm-hmm.
The Monster in the Woods. There's a lot
Square
of titles
Square
that just
acting.
Huh?
Square acting. I don't know why that name just kind of like sticks out to me a little bit.
It resonates. Yeah, well, if I was one to buy like these little games and stuff, then I would probably back this. I don't buy a bunch of bundles. In fact, the last bundle I bought was like Campaign Cartographer. So that tells you.
There's one called Museum of Self, and that title just has me hooked right off the bat. Plus the thumbnail shows chairs. It looks like chairs in a foyer kind of room, and above one chair is a question, "What is your purpose?" And above another chair, "What is your self-identity?" And then over another chair, "Who are you?" And you would think that the second and third questions would basically be the same thing, but maybe not. Maybe that's something I'll learn when I play that
Ooh.
game.
So
And right,
there's a game in here called "You Are Quarantined" with Adam Driver,
yes.
and he is insisting on reading you his new script.
Well, Do I Pass? That's got some connotations to it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Especially in the queer community, do I pass would be a heavy question. Pageant, that would be something. Gender dysphoria. There's some interesting titles in here.
Pygmalion lied. What
Oh
hides in the
wow.
marble when one hides from their own heart? That sounds interesting.
Koch's
So yeah.
Abyss Tactics.
So yeah,
Power
the
Couple.
long story short, hundreds of titles from people who have been there and are putting out these titles to convey something about themselves and their own experiences. So I can't think of a better way to support a group of people who need it and maybe learns a few things in the process.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I definitely encourage people, if you're into bundles, especially if you like a bunch of little games to try out. Um, this is definitely a deal at $60.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And
so
not all of them are video games either. Some of them are PDFs that you download, and they're basically like tabletop RPGs that you just
oh
play.
yeah,
That's
I
what
saw
that.
there was a card game that was a print and play.
Mm-hmm. Glitter Hearts, the one that was in the previous bundle, that's a tabletop RPG.
hmm So yeah, if you're into this kind of stuff,
Something
uh,
for everybody.
yeah, go ahead and back it. It's a great cause, which we love supporting causes like this. Um, and if you're one of those that does the bundles, then this is a bundle to check out. Um, yeah, I like this. I mean, I love supporting this community. Um, I've got tons of friends within the community. I'm very much part and parcel of it. I don't think that they need to be ostracized or treated any differently than everybody else. Everybody needs to be cognizant of the fact that people are people no matter what, and they need support too. They need to be able to feel that they're not, being singled out or not purchased from just because of their own particular lifestyle. And I'm not going to say lifestyle choice because it's not a choice. As far as they're concerned, this is who and what they are. Other people will call it a choice, but it's not.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
Authenticity is a word that gets thrown around a lot, and I'm still
mm,
not sure what it means. But some people do apparently, and God bless them. I wish I had the sense of self that some of these people have.
Man,
oh yeah,
I gotta say,
be you. That's basically what authenticity means.
yeah,
Is you be you.
something I started asking, more bigoted people, who were insist on calling it a choice or calling any of this a choice, right? I started asking them, and I'm not the first to do this, so like I'm not trying to say I have an original idea, but I have started like trying to ask them for a while, when did you choose to be straight or when did you choose to be hetero or whatever,
Yeah.
you this is what you like. You can't choose what you like or you can't choose how
Dislike.
you feel. The only thing you
You
can really choose is
is
if you
to
act on how
acknowledge
you
it.
feel.
To
Yeah,
acknowledge
Yeah.
you
it.
choose to
Yeah.
acknowledge it, but you can't choose how you are.
That's the choice part. The choice is that if you choose to be yourself or if you choose to hide yourself.
Yeah.
That's the
The
choice.
expression.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But in actuality, you are who you are, whether you keep it clamped down in a little box inside you or if you shout it on the rooftops. You're still who
Mm-hmm.
you are, and it can be quite damaging sometimes to hide it in a little box inside. So I'm glad that more and more people are starting to feel comfortable coming out and saying, "Hey, this is who I am. Deal with it." And more mainstream media and stuff is being more accepting of the fact. Great TV shows and video games and things are starting to take an advantage of this. Great show that comes to mind whenever I think of this is Schitt's Creek, that deals with the there's homosexuality and stuff in the show, and bisexuality, but they made it commonplace. They don't focus in on it like it's some after school
Mm-hmm.
special. The characters are just there, and that's why it's just so believable because Daniel, the main guy, is bi in the show, and he's also the writer of the show. The actor that plays him is the writer of the show, and it was lauded as one of the things that like pride festivals and stuff because they have such a great image of the things that how people need to treat this is just it's just there. Don't put a big magnifying glass on it, and don't try to treat them like they're other. They're not other. They're our brothers and sisters.
Yeah,
they're the people out there.
shows are getting better at pulling that off. I forget which nation it was called, but one of the communities from the show, the Dragon Prince, had two queens, literal actual queens that ruled jointly. Deet from the Dark Crystal Age of Rebellion has two fathers, and like you said, they don't
Throw a magnifying
shine a
glass
lot.
on it.
Yeah, they don't spotlight it. It's just, hey, these are my two dads.
Yeah. And that
Right.
And nobody questions it.
the Dragon Prince, I hear is good. It's on my Netflix list. I haven't gotten around to watching it yet, but I understand it's made by the same people who make
Last Airbender.
The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
And that's the thing is, we need to start getting to the point, and it's nice that we have some of the shows that do point it out as something that needs to be addressed and fixed in society. But it's even nicer to see the shows where they start just treating it like it's commonplace and that it shouldn't be anything to remark about. It's just there. Because
Yeah.
it is.
I didn't finish the Dragon Prince, but what I saw of it, it has the Last Airbender fingerprints all over it. The sense of humor, the animation style is different, but still
I hang my
has the
head.
action and pacing of Avatar. So yeah,
Nice.
I
I
highly
hang my
recommend.
head. I'm not a Last Airbender fan.
uh,
I've watched a few episodes.
Ugh.
It just never seems to draw me in.
I saw a thing recently where they had like some of the cast of the show, some of the voice actors, like a panel thing, a Q&A, and ask a Q&A thing, and then someone asked, they're like, if after all these years, Fire Lord Zuko never was able to kill, the Last Airbender, why'd you let M. Night Shyamalan do it?
Hey, I watched the
man.
live action movie.
Oh,
I know.
That's-
That's even worse, right?
that's what we're referencing. Is like, why'd you let M. Night Shyamalan do it?
I'm so glad they didn't greenlight a sequel, because if they gave him a chance to destroy Toph, there would be war.
Oh,
Anyway,
yeah. I guess
Yeah.
speaking on the topic of getting caught up on Netflix shows, I finally got caught up on one this last week. Jupiter's Legacy.
right. So let's go on to that one. Let's see, Jupiter's
Yeah.
Legacy.
So
And
I
I've
get-
already
one.
watched all of that.
Yeah, it's not been out for very long, and I got caught up on it this last week because the volume, I think they call it Volume 1, but like basically Season 1 came out recently, and it was an awesome show. I wasn't sure what to expect. It's the first of the Miller World comics
Yeah.
adaptions into shows and movies by Netflix, and it's been canceled.
Wait,
At
what?
least- yeah, Season 2 has been canceled.
Well,
Of
as
course it has.
as I had mentioned earlier when I covered Jupiter's Legacy a few episodes ago, and I think you might have experienced this now that you're caught up with it, Lurch. They spent way too much time in flashback that wasn't needed, and I think that turned a lot of the audience off
Maybe.
because there was a whole bunch of that flashback that really they could have dumped and it wouldn't have negatively affected the show at all because it wasn't needed background information. They just spent over 15 minutes of every episode on flashback before they finally got to the point in the last episode.
Yeah.
You need to get a little bit more focused on your flashbacks if you're going to include flashbacks and stuff. don't just do flashbacks because you think it's a nifty idea. Let's let's
Yeah.
actually put some more of the
I
story in there.
mean,
And,
yeah, the flashback was getting you to know who the characters were 100 years ago and how they got the powers and how their
right.
relationships kind of grew and formed to be what it is today to an
Yeah,
extent.
but it got to be tedious the way they
Yeah.
presented it, and I think although the story itself, especially the modern part of it, was great, uh, because they distracted everybody with all those flashbacks constantly, people had a hard time hooking into the story. And I think that's probably why their viewership wasn't as dedicated, and so they would have lost the chance for a second season. If they were going to
Actually,
do these kind of tricks, they might have wanted to wait until season 2.
I actually read that it actually got really good viewership for the first few weeks, which is pretty normal on a. I mean, for a successful Netflix show, that's pretty normal.
Well, the first few weeks is when people don't know what it is and they're all checking it out. It's
Yeah,
how they do after the first few weeks that really is the telling thing.
yeah.
What happens after the first month it's out? Uh, are there still people watching it, or are people not going back? Is people watching it to about the 4th or 5th episode and then just dropping it? Which is what I heard a lot of people say they were doing. In fact, most of the people I talked to who watched it said they couldn't get past the 2nd or 3rd episode before they just got bored with it. I
Oh yeah.
watched the whole thing. I watched the whole thing because I was anxious to see how their origin story came out, and I still liked the characters, but I could see where the tediousness was coming in, and
Yeah, maybe. I don't
and I
know.
think
I got through the whole show in a single day.
right.
Um,
It took me to
so it
because
kind of felt like it went quickly to me overall.
right.
For a show, there's only 8 episodes, so
Right. There's only 8 episodes, right? So it's not a lot to commit to. But I think the error here was just in presentation. If they'd done the presentation a little bit differently,
yeah.
been a little bit more focused in the flashbacks, at least each flashback should have had a real actual point. Some
Mhm.
flashbacks seem to be just there. They didn't teach us anything
Sometimes.
really important in the flashback. It was just there. And so if they had at least put a point in every flashback, maybe flashback about a couple of the other characters in the show, just to break it up. If they wanted to do a lot of flashbacks, they could have flashbacks the origin of somebody else, like one of the villains.
I don't
You
know.
know,
They were kind of doing a similar thing to what Arrow does. Do you remember the show Arrow?
yeah, that
first
did a ton of
six
flashbacks.
For the first 6 seasons, half of the show was flashbacks. The
Right,
other half was present day.
but
And
every
then
single flashback had meaning in Arrow.
and then the 7th season, it was flash forwards, and that was boring as shit.
Right, they
Those
kind of messed up. They dropped the ball there.
Those flash forwards were the worst.
But the flashbacks in Arrow, every single one of them had meaning in it, and it actually, you knew if you saw it in the flashback that episode, that later on when they did stuff in the future, it would directly relate to that flashback.
Personally,
So
found that kind of annoying because
that's what a lot of
it was
shows
just.
do, though.
I know, but it was so much. It was so heavy-handed in. Oh yeah, I had to deal with Mirakuru this day in the past, and now I'm dealing with it in the present. And it's like the challenges he's dealt with currently happened in the same sequential order as he dealt with them on the island, or from that day. I was like, this is such a bizarre coincidence that over the course of all these years, he just had the same cycle happen again 5 years later from a different setting.
But we don't necessarily know that they are always in the same order. It's just that he happened to be flashing back on the time when that was relevant.
No, they were gradually progressing forward in those flashbacks. It was always 5 years ago from the current time frame.
Some of
And
it
so,
could have been shifted around a little bit, and it still would have worked. But Yeah, I seen some of that.
it was a very linear story that they told and throughout the flashbacks. So it's like the flashback series was its own show, and it was
Right.
kind of like that with here, except for in Arrow, the flashbacks episodes, the flashback sections directly correlated to the current day episodes or current day stuff.
And
Whereas this
included,
show, they weren't really correlated, but it was giving you who the characters were. I actually liked the way it was handled on this show more than Arrow. I felt it more grounded and more believable, and it would the key focus of the flashbacks was to go over who the characters were. Like each episode wasn't like resolving some huge plot thing. It was developing the characters. You know, you were learning who Georgie was, and that's why I wasn't. You know, by the end of it, I don't want to give away any spoilers, but I had certain suspicions by the end of it based on how the characters were in the past. I was like, there's certain things about the past that's not matching up with what people in the future, in the present day, think is the truth. And I bet you that this is going to be flipped around in this way because of the hints we're getting in the past.
That's true, but the other thing is Flash's flashbacks. I mean, not Flash, but Arrow's flashbacks included more action, and I think that was also another part of it. There wasn't a lot of action in the flashbacks.
That is true. In
Jupiter's Legacy.
In Jupiter's Legacy flashbacks, there wasn't hardly any action.
Not till the end.
Until the last like 2 episodes.
Right.
But you know, when you think about it, overall, this show didn't have a lot of action. No, it was a very story-driven superhero show, and I can see that being a problem.
That could have hurt it too. Well, because if you combine all of the flashbacks and the lack of action, it might have been too much for some people. People might have been more able to handle that much flashback if at least they'd have upped the action quotient in some of it.
Yeah.
You know, just up it a little bit. Not a lot, just a little. Just to, because they focus so much on story that people forgot it was a superhero show. And they were thinking it was a soap opera. And people don't want to watch a superhero soap opera.
Yeah.
We want to watch a superhero soap opera. We want to watch Superman and Lois.
So I'll say this, like, you know, last week, between dealing with things with my mom, plus I got my second COVID vaccine shot, and for like 3 days I was not feeling too well, and so I didn't play any video games or do much that required much physical activity. So for like 3 days, all I did after work is watch superhero stuff, and I binged through Invincible, I binged through Jupiter's Legacy, and then I binged the Watchmen series, although the Watchmen took me a couple of days to get through. I finished it off like Saturday or something. I still haven't finished it. And
I get to a certain point and then I get bored.
Oh yeah. Between the three, I think between the three, my favorite is probably Invincible, and then my next favorite was probably Watchmen. But I really liked all three for very different reasons.
Yeah, but you're more of an in-depth, you know, character build kind of comic book fan than some people. You being a, you know, in interested in also theater and writing and stuff, where not all the fans are going to be into that. You care more about character development than the average person does.
Yeah.
And so the character development part might have even piqued your interest more, just because it was character development. And as a fellow author, I know exactly what you mean there. You're always looking at new ways to see how to portray that.
Yeah.
And so, and granted, I myself like that, but like there were some scenes that like I saw almost no use at all. Like the scene where they come in and there's the 100 hard-boiled eggs set up, and he's saying, "Okay, I'll have number 72 this morning. Oh, give this person, you know, 12. It's practically a soft boil, you know, number 12, and this one, you know, number 56." You know,
Yeah.
Because he has 100 eggs made every morning.
Yeah. When I first watched that scene, I
And
thought that was just bizarre, and I didn't care for it. But then
I
it
know
had a follow up
why.
later when it had just the one egg.
Yeah, he
And
says, I averaged your basic choices and
yeah,
I made you this one.
it was showing him the lavish lifestyle he was accustomed to, and his extravagance and eccentricness, and now he's having to scale back all of that to
And
be
and
more
and it
normal, I
also,
guess.
well, the other thing it showed was his privilege,
Yeah.
because he was very privileged, and it gave us some foreshadowing. And we could actually put some spoilers in here. We're just going to say spoiler alert right now before we do it.
Okay.
It does, spoiler alert, it does kind of precursor the fact that let us know he's the eventual bad guy, because he was one of the bad guys because of the fact that he felt that life owed him his privilege and stuff, and the
See,
egg thing kind of illustrated that. But it took till the reveal to really conceptualize it. And if people didn't sit through all the episodes to get to that reveal, they never got the nice creamy filling of the Twinkie. They just never got to the part
yeah,
that made it worthwhile.
yeah, and in my, I don't think, and I'm not an expert on it. I don't think Georgie is actually a villain. I know
Well,
he's painted as a villain in the present day, but I think that's all. I don't remember his name now, but the brother, the brother with the telepath powers. I think
yeah.
he's really the villain and made Georgie look like a villain using his telepathy.
Well, that's the thing. He's a villain in that he wanted to approach things differently from the way everybody else is approached. He didn't want to work under all the rules that the main guy did, and that in a way made him painted as the villain. But really, it just makes him another variation on a hero.
Yeah,
Uh, he could very well just be someone who wanted to handle it differently. Um,
yeah,
on the other hand, his brother is basically painted in the last episode, again, spoiler alerts, as the secret real villain. He
yeah,
created the clone. He created the, well, he ends up killing his own daughter at the end there.
yeah.
And so,
And there was hints about him being the real villain from the flashbacks.
right. And there's your value for your flashbacks. The thing is, they took so long between the flashback and the reveal. Again, that's the part that I think where they lost people, because you got to get people to watch all the way to episode 8. And
Yeah,
some of us will binge watch, like you and me. I watched it in 2 days. You watched it in one. We binged all the way through it, and so 8 episodes is nothing if you binge. But if you watch 1 or 2 episodes and you leave and you come back and you leave and you come back, you're going to get to episode 3 or 4 and say, okay, look, where's the nice creamy filling I'm starting to want to taste?
yeah,
And they don't get that creamy filling. They don't get that release of their pent up anxieties over all the stuff that's going on. There's no reveal to tell them, hey, these flashbacks mean something. They're going to start saying, you know what, these flashbacks are useless. This show's useless. I'm going to find something else to watch. And so by episode 4, episode 5, you've lost 60% of your audience. And you can't, and a new show can't afford to lose 60% of his audience.
yeah.
And
I think
that's the
I think
problem.
I think Netflix shows, though, because Netflix releases all their episodes all
At
at once.
once.
I
They're counting
think
on the bingers.
right. I was gonna say I think they tend to produce them in a means that's intended to be absorbed quickly, like binge
Yeah,
watching. It's not
they
or
expect people to binge it a little bit,
yeah,
and so they can bank on slightly different layouts
story structure.
when they go
Yeah,
to do their planning meetings for a new series. Unlike a network like CW or NBC or something, they have to plan to have something in the show to talk people into watching the next episode.
I
Every
do
episode.
agree. I fully agree with that. I don't think this show would have worked as well. I don't think this show would have worked well as a weekly release.
Oh yeah, this
Um,
this would
as
not
a
have worked as a
as a big drop.
CW or
No.
thing, but it does as a Netflix show intending to be binged. It works better. It still doesn't work
Yeah.
100%, but it works better because just because it's intended to be binged doesn't mean everybody binges it. Not everybody
Yeah.
has that big lump of time to sit and binge like we take the time to do. We don't have it necessarily, but we take it anyway.
It almost sounds like it might have been done better as a movie. It sounds
In-
the
in
tension
some
curve you're
ways.
describing. Yeah, the tension curve you're describing, it's not ups and downs episode by episode like a serial should be. It's like details mounting on details, mounting on details, especially with all those flashbacks, and then you get to the end and boom, it all comes together.
Yeah, and it was a
picked out
7
better.
hour. It was like a 7 hour movie, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if they'd have kicked it off with like a 2 hour movie and then moved into this, it might have been a better presentation and got a lot of the flashback away with in the movie.
Oh.
If they'd have done a 2 hour movie lead in,
I'm curious.
Hell,
I'm curious how similar this is to the books, though.
yeah, because I didn't read.
They might have made
Jupiter's
they
Legacy
might have made
books.
it just like the books.
It
No,
could
I'm
very
not
well
sure.
be very faithful, but like I said, losing 60 or so percent of your audience before they ever watch the last 3-4 episodes, that will get you to not get renewed.
Yeah.
And if
Now
you really
is that like a guess number, or is there like a statistic that they put out?
It's a guess.
Okay.
Because they don't like to release those numbers to everybody.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to like showcase it.
Yeah.
So it's just like how Marvel hates to show off a lot of their numbers, just because
But
they love
are
to show their
still-
good numbers. They hate to
and
show
they-
their bad
and they-
numbers.
Now they did also add, one of the things they said is this isn't the end of the characters. They do
Right,
fully intend on continuing the use of these characters. They have a whole world of other characters for the Millerverse, the Miller world, or whatever.
They're just not going to have Jupiter's Legacy anymore, and that's fine because the character. I mean, I personally want to see more of the daughter. I really want to see more of the daughter. I want to see her build, but she could get her own series, and that would be fine. Or there could be a series that just features the two kids, the daughter and the son, maybe interacting with some of the other young heroes, and they might get their own spinoff later on. And because the young heroes, they won't spend as much time on flashbacks. If they do flashback, they're going to flashback just to their childhood, being raised by him. So it's going to have a little bit more meaning to people because everybody understands there's a childhood. So it's going to have more relevance to more people. We're actually about 30 minutes into the end of our show. Did we have any other topics we were definitely going to cover?
Before we get on to the CW shows, I wanted to bring up the Nintendo Direct that they're doing.
That's the
this month.
IGN.
Yeah.
This is the error one. Nintendo Direct. There we go.
Yeah. So on June 15th, Nintendo is doing a Nintendo Direct that is roughly 40 minutes. Mostly focusing on content that they intend on releasing in 2021 for the Nintendo Switch.
And it's from E3. The 2021 E3
they're calling
Direct.
it the E3 2021 Direct. I'm not sure if that means... I don't think it's being released as part officially of the E3 event itself, but it's happening in the same time window as E3.
It
So
says
being
it's
referred to as the
3 hours of
2021
gameplay in the Nintendo Treehouse Live show.
Yeah. So they're doing like the 40-minute direct show, and then like 3 hours of gameplay
specifically
on this
from
Treehouse.
E3.
Yeah.
Nice. Planning to announce an
So we don't
upgraded
know.
Switch
That's the rumor.
for the Switch Pro.
Yeah. So the rumors is that they're going to be talking about Switch Pro and Breath of the Wild 2, but none of that's confirmed. The parts that's confirmed is how long they tend on showing stuff, basically, and when, and that they intend on mostly focusing on content from releasing, sometime in 2021 for the Switch.
I gotcha.
So
Okay.
everything else after that is speculation.
Right.
So, like this article here, it says Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, Metroid Prime 4, another Mario game, Celebration of Zelda, Bayonetta 3. People have been talking about Pokemon stuff, and there's good chance that any number of these things will be true, but it's all speculation just based off of Nintendo's history. But if we're just talking about just strictly what's confirmed,
a possible
this is what
sequel
we
to
got.
Super Mario Odyssey.
Oh, I would love to see that. That was one of my favorite Mario games.
The Super Mario Odyssey was also released in 2017, and it could be time to see a potential sequel or a tease of the next mainline Mario game.
Yeah.
And of course, Mario is the flagship games for Nintendo. Mario and Zelda are the two flagship properties that they put a lot of stock in.
Quick question for you guys.
Yeah.
Who do you think is more popular as like a household name kind of a character? Sonic the Hedgehog or Zelda?
Sonic.
Like in the general public, who do you think is the more popular character?
Sonic.
I think Sonic too.
As much as I love RPGs, I know that RPGs aren't everybody's cup of tea, but action scrollers are. And so Sonic is a little bit bigger.
I was watching a podcast this week where that became an argument.
And if we're talking about actual household names, like mainstream, even non-gamers know who they are.
Yeah.
Sonic has had several cartoon series, had a movie recently. I think Sonic has more widespread mainstream exposure, yeah.
And even though Zelda's in more of the titles, I think more people identify with Link than Zelda, because that's who you play.
Right.
So Zelda's less of a household name as more of a nebulous character at the end of Link's story, even though they're all called Legend of Zelda. Link is the character you play, so that's the one more people will identify with. Where Sonic is the character you play in the Sonic games.
I watched an amusing argument about that this last week on a podcast where they were like, yeah, Sonic's the more popular character, and the other persons are like, no, Zelda games are way better. And they're like, oh, we're not saying which games are better.
Yeah.
They're like, we agree with you. Zelda games are better, but Sonic is more popular.
And I won't even say
Sonic's
better,
got several cartoons. He's got movies.
And I won't say better because they're in two different genres of games. Sonic is a side-scroller action game. Zelda's heavily RPG, and it's a action RPG. They're two different genres, so you're comparing apples and oranges. I love both series of games. I will say that of the two, the Zelda games are more engrossing for me, but I would also counter with saying that the Sonic games has more appeal for the wider audience.
Yeah.
Non-gamers like Sonic.
Yeah. You'll see a Sonic the Hedgehog float at the Macy's Day Parade or whatever. Right. You probably won't see a Zelda float.
But Sonic also has go ahead.
Sonic also has the benefit of having a personality, whereas Link is kind of a tabula rasa by design.
Yeah.
And Zelda even less, because you never really talked to her much.
So, she's gotten better in the recent games. She had some speaking parts in. Yeah, she had some speaking parts in Breath of the Wild, and she got fleshed out in Hyrule Warriors pretty well.
Yeah, those are beyond. Those are after my time when it comes to Zelda games. So,
to the point where they show flashbacks before the Calamity. That's the kickoff for the Breath of the Wild video game, and going in depth with her
I think the last one I played with
questions, asking questions about her destiny and her role, and whether she's ready, and whether she should even have to carry this burden at all, and all in the midst of an oncoming war.
The last one I played with any diligence was Ocarina of Time. So, you know.
Well, see now you're out of date there then, because like I think every Zelda fan will agree that up to that point, up to the Ocarina of Time window of time, Sonic games were still considered top shelf video games. It wasn't until PS2 era after the Dreamcast died that Sonic games started going down in quality overall.
Yeah, it was when they made the transition to 3D and other companies got better at doing 3D, and Sonic just didn't for some reason.
Well, yeah. and Sonic got a lot more competitors at that point, because initially Sonic was, when it first came out, Sonic was mainly competing with Mario and Crash Bandicoot and Banjo-Kazooie and Donkey Kong.
Sonic predates Banjo-Kazooie and Crash Bandicoot by years.
I know, but those are the main contemporary people he competed with through his heyday.
Yeah, through the 90s.
Banjo-Kazooie, Donkey Kong. Of course, Donkey Kong predates them all.
But if you look at games in the last 10 years, Zelda has a better track record of better games than Sonic has. And it's not just a matter of the competition or sales, it's the quality of the games have overall been better.
The CDI games notwithstanding, it's hard to think of a bad Zelda game.
But, as my original point still stands, Zelda is a game made for gamers. Sonic is a casual gamer's game. Anybody, families will play it because you don't need to know a whole lot of the backstory to play Sonic. You can just run with it. And that's where a lot of its appeal comes from. It's a simple side-scroller. Fast-paced, very colorful side-scroller, which is what appeals to the masses, where us gamers, we want backstory. We want depth of character. We want interesting mechanics sometimes.
Okay.
You almost never find a casual gamer that's going to play a lot of the RPGs all the way through because there's too much dedication involved. But you'll see them play several levels of a game like Sonic because they're all the same. They're just still Sonic running and clearing rings. What does he do the next level? Same thing, run and clear rings.
Gamble at the casino for more rings.
Right. There's a couple of side games just to break it up, but really all the main levels he's doing the same thing over and over again, just like an old Super Mario game. What's he do every level? Oh, well, he's killing Koopas and headbutting stuff and shooting fireballs. Okay, what's he do the next level? Kills Koopas, headbutt stuff, shoots fireballs, climbs ivy. Yeah.
Anyway,
it's simple for the non-gamer to get into.
Did I mention how Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic 3 and Knuckles is supposed to be getting released on an anthology finally?
2 weeks ago, I think you did.
Was it 2 weeks ago I brought that up?
Either that or was it the one that you came in and did over chat?
The thing I did over chat was just really talking about the Horizon thing.
Oh, okay. Then it was 2 weeks ago.
Just so that people knew about it coming up.
It was 2 weeks ago, yeah. And I'm pretty excited, too, because Knuckles is one of my favorite characters. I like Knuckles.
Anyway, I think we are through this because we don't have a whole lot of solid information other than, hey, be excited on June 15th. Getting a lot of Nintendo footage coming out. And after that, I think we are ready to move on to the TV shows, right?
Well, we've only got 20 minutes. We've only got 20 minutes left, and unlike previous episodes, we've only got one TV show to really talk about
Yeah.
because although there's a new Batwoman this week, it airs tonight on its new night. So won't be able to talk about it till next week.
No news till next week.
Loki comes out next week. Oh man,
yeah.
My Tuesday night, Wednesday evening before we do the podcast is going to get so full because I got to watch Loki. I got to watch Superman and Lois. I got to watch The Flash. I got to watch what's the other one? Legends of Tomorrow. So I got to watch 4 shows in 24 hours.
Yeah, I know. I think it was just Memorial Day that had a few of them on hiatus this week.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because I was all chomping at the bit, ready for Legends of Tomorrow to come on. I was there Monday morning. It was like 2 a.m. I was like, come on, Legends of Tomorrow. It didn't drop. Where's my Legends of Tomorrow? Where's my Legends of Tomorrow? And then no Flash dropped. I'm like, what? And then I said, oh, good. Superman and Lois dropped. At least something dropped. I was like, we're going to have nothing to talk about in our media section. I
even messaged you guys about it going, am I going crazy or did only Superman and Lois get a new episode this month?
I says, well, as far as that goes, that's not proof of you going crazy. I'm not saying you're not going crazy, but that's not why.
Yeah.
Anyway, so now we're in the spoilers. Now, we usually say bye to Greg at about this point because he doesn't get in on this part. So you want to go ahead and make goodbyes, Greg?
Yeah, I will. You can find me at Queen City Cardboard on Twitch and YouTube and Instagram for that matter, where I post whatever board games I've been playing lately. I should be finishing up Call of Cthulhu tomorrow and then jumping back into a new game that I'm really enjoying, a deck building fantasy adventure game called SteamWorld Quest: The Hand of Gilgamesh.
Gilgamesh? Not Gilgamesh?
Gilgamesh, because robots.
Is it robots?
That's what I was figuring. Yep. I had a feeling you were going to say that. My psychic twinkle just kicked in. Okay.
I've been meeting good people online and hope to meet some more. So maybe I'll see everybody there.
And if you want to actually meet Greg, come out to Holdfast Brewing Company on the third Wednesday of every month, where he does our board game night. And
I make a point of
brews and good games.
And I make a point of bringing games that are short and sweet, and maybe some classic titles too, if I can fit them into my trunk.
Yeah, it's hard to fit all the games that we own at once, so he has to pick and choose. But he puts some short games in so you can at least get your feet wet. And then if he gets a group of people together that have all played a few short games and everybody wants to, then he could dig into something a little crunchier and meatier. Or you can always break up and become puzzle parties and do the puzzle thing at the brewery. Plus, there's excellent microbrews there. The food is absolutely to die for. The service is great. The people are nice and friendly. And the place is very clean. All great selling points for Holdfast Brewing Company. Mm-hmm. So check it out. Third Wednesday. Yep. You won't see him here with us on that Wednesday because he'll be there instead.
I'll be busy.
But you can actually give him suggestions for our show, and he'll pass them along to us and see which one of us might be able to handle your suggestion. Because we're always looking for more content. But thanks, Greg. We'll see you next week.
See you around.
Yep, you have a good one. We're going to go and finish the show up and then go our own way. So,
take care.
All right, take care, Greg. Okay, so we're going to lose Greg. Hold on, let me switch to... hold on there. Gesundheit. Let's see. And all right, there we go. Okay, we're going to go ahead and see here. We are looking at DC Universe. Basically, the only update we have for the Berlanti-verse this week is Superman and Lois. But oh, what an update.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot that happened today. I watched it. I almost watched it a second time because I was like, Oh my God, do I need to see that again? Um, let's see. First off, they captured John Henry Irons last week, and so he's at the military base under General Lane, and Superman's coming in to talk to him. He mostly refuses to talk to Superman. He wants to talk to Lois. Now, while Superman's in there kind of interrogating John Henry Irons, Lois and Jonathan go into his RV as the two non-powered Kents. They go into the RV, and the AI in the RV recognizes Lois as an authorized user because, of course, on his world, John Henry Irons was married to Lois Lane. So she's an authorized user. So she's like, tell me about John Henry Irons, and up folds the couch, and it turns into a full media center with
Yeah.
joystick controls for like weaponry, probably. We never find out. But
I think he used one of those joysticks to control the pictures or videos or something.
I don't know, but it looked like some of those look like tactical joysticks for like aiming weapons.
I agree.
It looked like it's ready to, it was on if it wanted to be on. But so she learned a little bit about John Henry Irons' life on the other world, including the daughter that he had, which was Natalie. And then we find out later in the episode that after Jonathan and Jordan were born, about 18 months after they were born, Lois got pregnant again with a little girl and miscarried. And she was going to name the little girl Natalie after her grandmother. So this hit Lois pretty hard, and we don't see how hard it hits her until Jonathan. Lois is taking a little bit of break from going out to the RV, and she tells Jonathan, "I'll let you know when I go back, and I'll take you with me." Well, Jonathan wants to go out anyway because he wants, being a normal human in a family full of superheroes, he wants a weapon so he can fight. So he goes down in there to look for a weapon. And just as he finds the weapon cabinet, the AI suddenly says, okay, authorization needed again. And Jonathan's not on the authorization list because he don't exist in that other world. So he was never added to the AI's database as an authorized user. So the RV locks itself up and gets ready to blast Jonathan into 50 million pieces.
Yeah. He gives him a countdown with red dots, sights all over the place.
Bunch of laser pointer sights. He's going to die. He can't get out. Lois is at the door of the RV yelling at the AI, "This is Lois Lane. No, he's authorized. He's my son." Trying to get the AI to override. It's not working. Clark is over at the military still trying to deal with John Henry Irons. And then Lois is like, finally she pulls out her Superman summoning ultrasound device, clicks and says, "Clark, I need you now." And Jonathan's in trouble. He's gone at supersonic speed, shows up, rips the door off the camper, jumps in just in time to cover Jonathan with his own body and cape and take all the shots, because otherwise Jonathan would have been toast.
He would have been Swiss cheese.
He would have been jelly. And it would have been jelly for that peanut butter sandwich. But
oops.
Yeah. But anyway, then he goes into the kitchen and he's being confronted by the parents, and Lois fucking loses her shit. And now the episode had opened with Lois talking about losing her temper on somebody to an old family friend who had acted like a therapist for her. I guess she's a professional therapist.
Yeah.
And she, I guess, had been the person that Lois talked to when she had her miscarriage. So now this person is talking to her again, and we finally see why she was talking about losing her temper. she lost her temper on Jonathan, and oh my God, did she lose her temper on Jonathan? Because he
Yeah.
scared the holy hell out of her because she couldn't handle losing another child. Even though, a miscarriage wasn't a fully formed baby yet, doesn't mean it doesn't hit the mother really hard. And Lois took it really,
Yeah.
really hard because, among other things, Lois, as most people know, is a control freak. She's a little bit of an action junkie control freak. And so when things get out of her control, Lois can lose it a little bit. And she barely handles the fact that Clark has more control over things than she does. And so when stuff like complete out of her control happens, she loses her shit. And this time she lost her shit on Jonathan. I mean, Clark was like, "Are you okay, Lois?"
Yeah.
I,
You went a little harsh on the boy.
I'm fine. Yes, okay. I'm sure that means you're not. And I always want you to be the person that can come to me and
That
talk
was
about
great.
anything. But
That was really great. Are you okay, Lois? I'm fine. I'm going to strike that up as a no.
no, yes. And I always want to be the person you can confide in. But those few times when you don't, you need to talk to somebody. Maybe you can go talk to that person you talked to last time, uh, because you need to talk to somebody. And I'm going to go talk to Jonathan because, oh my God, Jonathan was traumatized by that. I mean, oh my God. And
Yeah.
he was like going to his brother Jordan saying, like, I need you to back me up because you're all I have in this world. I don't have any friends and stuff. Now, of course, we have to have some teen drama going on. So, Lana's daughter is talked into trying out for the school musical heavily by her
Yep.
dad because her dad just wants to be involved with her life and he wants to, play his guitar and help her audition. And she's got massive, huge stage fright. She can handle singing with choir, but doing anything by herself, she just can't handle. But dad's like, oh, no, no, I'll be there with you and I'll play guitar and I'll do that. And she almost doesn't go for it, but then she talks to Jordan, and Jordan points out that he had been a child pianist, that mom and dad had taught him piano. Are you talking there, Lurch, or are you just moving your
No.
mouth?
I'm just
Okay. Yeah. Looked like your lips were
Mm.
moving like you might be talking or something. I was like, did we lose sound? No. Anyway, so we find out Jordan had gone through the piano recital kind of part of childhood, and he couldn't handle the soloist thing either. He had major stage fright and stuff and his anxiety. Because that's the one thing that Lana's daughter and Jordan really share. They both have heavy anxiety disorder. And, but eventually he talks Lana into going up and trying too. Well, on the day of the audition, Lana shows up, Jordan shows up, Jonathan even shows up because he's talking to Jordan. But Dad had gone by the place where Lana worked for Morgan, I think his name is.
Yeah, Morgan Edge.
Yeah, Morgan
Yep.
Edge. And Morgan Edge's assistant had, on his way into the building, told her husband, we're sorry that you didn't take our offer to be part of like our management program. We're really interested in you. I hope you change your mind. So, of course, he goes in and instead of doing what he was going to do, which was, I don't even fully remember what he was going to do with Lana.
He was supposed to go and play guitar with his daughter on the little audition
Oh, that's right.
thing.
He'd brought in a recording of one of their practice sessions for Lana to enjoy on his phone. Yeah. And he thought Lana would get a kick out of it. But he ignored that completely because he confronted Lana with the fact that she lied to him about him getting an offer to do work with Morgan Creek. Morgan Edge, rather. And Lana says, no, Morgan wasn't interested in you. He didn't think you were. She's still lying to him. But she said, but he's like, no, that was his right hand woman said he did. So And she would know. He says, no, probably just he didn't mention it to her, so she doesn't know. So Lana basically blew smoke up his ass.
Yeah. And so
And
then he went off and got drunk.
he got a bender instead of showing up for Lana's daughter's rehearsal or audition. So he wasn't there to play guitar and be the other person on stage, so she wasn't up there alone. And just we find out, she's, you seen my dad and stuff. They're like, and then they call her up, and she's scared of going up there. And Jordan, in a show of solidarity, because we all know that Jordan's got the huge crush on her,
Yeah.
says he'll go up and he'll play for her on the piano. And she's like, but you don't know this. Says, I'll just look up the chords. No problem. And she knows, of course, because if he confided in her, how scary this proposition really is for Jordan. So she's almost shamed into going up there. But she goes up and she does a fabulous performance. She's the best singer there because the other people that auditioned, frankly, sucked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody that I heard sucked. But she got up and she sang a wonderful song, and they never say if she got it or not, because the next thing you know, she's confronting her dad and telling him, don't make any more promises because you're not going to keep them.
Yeah. She's just like, you just do you and don't make any promises so I don't get any expectations again.
Yeah, no more disappointment because there's no more expectations. Which you don't ever want to hear from your daughter. Okay, so then the finish of the episode, because we still got more going on in this episode. This episode was chock full of stuff. We've got them moving John Henry Irons because he wouldn't talk to anybody. He kept saying he wanted to talk to Lois. But Clark didn't want to let Lois in on this part of it. I mean, he didn't want Lois to be subjected to it. And he didn't want, because it's not the Lois that John wants to talk to, as far as Clark's concerned. It's not going to do any good. Even though General Lane is saying maybe we should let him talk to Lois. In fact, he had gone away from wanting to torture the guy because he was going to let his torturer expert in. But he says, no, maybe we should let him talk to Lois. They said no.
Besides the fact that he wants to talk to Lois being really good at interviewing people, he's like, let her do what she does best and get him to talk.
Right? And it might have been a good idea, but anyway, they go to move the prisoner, and there's two of the soldiers that are moving the prisoner, and one of them is the torture guy. And he says, hey, how about you look the other way, and I go ahead and just get my stuff and get the information off this guy. And the other guy says no. And then it turns out that the other guy is one of Morgan Edge's Kryptonian converts. Superhumans, because he went and basically killed the torturer and takes John Henry Irons downstairs to where they keep the secret kryptonite laboratory, where they have all the kryptonite weapons as the just in case Superman ever goes bad or other Kryptonians ever invade.
Yeah.
But one of the side effects of the Morgan Edge conversions, they don't seem to be vulnerable to kryptonite like Clark is.
Oh no, he's vulnerable to kryptonite. He was wearing a mask,
and
it was a specific kryptonite variant that you have to inhale for it to affect you.
Well,
because
that was an artificial kryptonite gas that they were using too. But I think they also aren't as susceptible to kryptonite as Clark, because just being around kryptonite weakens Clark, but it doesn't seem to weaken them. So who knows? But
I mean, he ended up getting killed by a kryptonite spear.
That's true. So who knows? But John Henry Irons is like, hey, that's okay. I'll watch you guys beat the shit out of each other. I'm okay with that. You can both kill each other for all I care. But he's actually a captive, and the enemy soldier fights with Clark down there because General Lane reveals that he's downstairs in lab 7731 or whatever. I don't remember the number.
Yeah, it doesn't
And
matter.
but and Lane says nope, because that's where we keep the kryptonite weapons, which Clark had pretty much guessed. But Clark went down anyway because, just because he might have a vulnerability doesn't mean he's going to stop and not
It's like,
protect
let me
everybody.
guess, that's where you keep your stores of kryptonite? It's like, it's the R&D where we keep our prototype kryptonite-based weapons.
Yeah,
Oh, even
yeah.
better.
So, but he goes down anyway. And the guy uses kryptonite gas in a couple of different forms. There's a gas shooter and a gas grenade. And he's beating the crap out of Clark. And but Clark is holding his own because even wicked, Clark still is Clark. And
Yeah.
he's been Superman for long enough. He knows some fight moves and stuff. And but
I'm pretty sure I saw a few times where you could see his cheeks kind of puffed out where he's trying to hold his breath.
Right. Try not to inhale the kryptonite gas.
Yeah.
And then John Henry Irons ends up killing the guy with the kryptonite spear. But then he turns the spear on Superman.
Yeah.
But at that point, Lois comes in and talks him down. And basically doesn't convince him necessarily that her Superman is different from the Superman he knew, but talks him into giving Superman a chance. And then at the end of the episode, they've actually let John Henry Irons go as a show of faith. And he says, "Oh, so you're going to become like some kumbaya, join you in your struggles kind of guy, all things forgiven." And Superman, because of course John Henry Irons, as far as Superman knows, doesn't know he's Clark. Shows up and says, "Nope, you're free to go. Although I do hope you'll step in when you're needed, but you're free to go as a show of trust." And trust goes both ways, and blah blah blah. And
he's like, if you're right that there's going to be a Kryptonian war soon, we can use all the help we can get.
It may need to fight side by side. And then he kind of tips his imaginary hat and says, "Miss Lane," and then flies away, which is how you're indicating that, as far as they're concerned, until otherwise stated, they're assuming that he doesn't know that Clark is Superman. Even though revealing that Clark, her husband, was Superman might have helped salve some of his misgivings because he's made roots in the human world. But anyway, they don't feel it's important enough to reveal that, and that's okay because they don't need to be revealing that. And that's how we end the episode. We're after 10 o'clock, so we've kind of brought this right around perfect timing, especially since we only had one show to cover this week. But there was so much in that show that it almost felt like maybe it needed its own little spot. Because this episode was a busy one.
Yeah, it was a dense episode.
It was a dense episode.
It was really, really good. And I got to say, I felt really good because I wasn't here for last week, of course, to talk about it. But I was totally right that something didn't seem right about him being Lex Luthor.
Right? Oh, and I didn't think that was right either because for the most part, even though there were some different actors that played different world versions of people, a lot of the media hype and stuff said that we were still going to get John Cryer as Lex Luthor in the Superman and Lois when he shows up.
Yeah,
and so
that is his that is his Lex Luthor. Of course, it could be Lexus from other universes, but I didn't feel it. Just felt weird to me for this person to be a Lex from another universe.
Right, he didn't seem to have that Lex mentality.
Yeah,
and
he didn't have that specific twisted Lex
megalomania. The megalomania that is so Lex Luthor.
There we go.
He has more of the righteous warrior kind of thing, which fits John Henry Irons so much better. He makes such a better John Henry Irons than Shaquille O'Neal ever did.
I was really excited when it was John Henry Irons. I was like, wait a second, the Man of Steel himself?
Yes, actual steel. Yes, which for those of you who don't know from superhero mythology, there was a groundbreaking Superman comic that came out. In fact, when it was first produced and came to the comic store, it had a black non-see-through bag that it was produced in with just a Superman symbol on the front, so you couldn't even see the cover till you ripped into the bag. And it was called The Death of Superman. And that's the actual first time that Superman died in the comic books. And this was when he fought Doomsday.
Yeah.
And at the aftermath, after he died, there were 4 different kind of returns of Superman. One of them was John Henry Irons as Steel, who was a person who Superman had saved in the past, who used his ability with engineering to create his steel outfit and his hammer. And so that was the origin of Steel. Steel was one of the answers to the world not having Superman. Then there was the black-suited Superman, and there was a couple of other Superman variants in there.
There was the Eradicator.
Right. And then
Superboy,
Superboy
I think came out around then.
And then the other one was a Superboy, I think, from an alternate universe that came over to ours to kind of fill the void. But those were the 4 alternate Supermans. And then it turned out that the black-suited Superman was the reincarnation of Superman. But he now had this black suit and sometimes no cape. So very different from the original Superman, which is very red and blue and gold, with a big streaming cape, which was of course made from the swaddling blanket that he came to Earth in.
I like that line in this new episode of Superman and Lois where General Lane shouts orders to his men: anything that moves that doesn't have a red flowy cape, destroy it.
Right.
Or something. Kill it.
Right.
Consider it armed and extremely dangerous.
But anyway, so you learn a little bit of Superman lore. So John Henry Irons is an important character in later Superman issues, later parts of the mythology. He was added in to the Superman story as a side character. And every once in a while, Superman has worked with Steel since, and Steel joined the Justice League, and he's an auxiliary member and stuff. So he does do some things. He's still out there kicking super villain ass as his own independent hero. He even had his own title for a little while, but I think it's completely over with. Don't quote me on that. But anyway, next week is going to be a busy week. So, because hopefully we'll have the return of Legends of Tomorrow. We'll have the return of Flash. We'll have another Lois and Clark. Superman and Lois.
Superman and Lois.
Another Superman and Lois. We will have Loki's premiere.
Loki. That'll be my priority.
I don't know how much we're going to actually go into spoilers for Loki next week, or if we'll do a non-spoiler first.
Yeah, I think we need to do non-spoiler because it's the same day the episode is released.
And I'm not sure if we'll get around to watching it or not before the episode airs. And we know that a lot of you will not get around to it. And so we'll probably, like we've done with a few of the movies and stuff, we'll give it a week before we start hitting spoilers on Loki. But the following week, and from then on, we'll do spoilers just like normal. But next week, we'll probably try not to do too many spoilers, but we will kind of introduce you to what we're introduced to and our first impressions of Loki, which I'm chomping at the bit, looking forward to that. In fact, I think Monday they're doing a Marvel Legends Loki in preparation for Wednesday's Loki episode. So I think I'm going to go ahead and start my Disney Plus this weekend.
What do you mean by a Marvel Legends Loki?
I saw something under show premieres, under the premiere schedule for new shows of Marvel Legends Loki coming out like 2 days before Loki comes out. And Marvel Legends is kind of one of their anthology things where they talk about characters. Where'd you go?
Yeah.
Lost your cam. There, you're blinking. I'm not sure if
Hmm.
you're here or
Oh,
not.
okay. I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Are you able to hear me?
yeah,
Okay.
I can hear you. But anyway,
All
so I
right.
think there's a Marvel Legends which is going to go into the history of the Loki character. I'm not sure, but I saw it under a list of episode premieres, and it's 2 days before the actual premiere of the show. And so, that being the case, I'm probably going to start up my Disney Plus and watch that before I watch Loki itself. Even though I
Gotcha.
know the history of Loki, because
Mhm.
among other things, he's one of my favorite Norse pantheon gods. But
Yeah.
also, even the Marvel version of him, I know quite a bit because I followed Thor quite a bit as a young comic book reader. And a lot of the Thor and Loki stuff is before 1989 when I stopped collecting.
Hmm.
So
So
anyway,
you read a lot of the Walter Simons books?
yes, I read pretty much anything that came out before 1989. I read. uh,
So,
but
yeah. I think
we're
we're
going to
about
have a
ready to
busy
wrap up.
week.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, we got a busy week coming up.
we've got some movies coming up here in the next, here in June. Furious 9 comes out on the 25th. Is
I
Black
got
Widow this month or next month?
July,
Okay,
so next
but
month. But
uh,
I've got E3 this month, so I'm going to be busy with a lot of
when's
video gaming news.
Suicide
Oh boy,
Squad?
when does that come out?
Is that June, July, or August?
I think that's August.
But we've got some more stuff coming out real soon. I think the next big one for HBO is going to be Space Jams.
Yeah.
So that's
Anyway,
coming out. So we'll catch you next week. As always, you can catch me on this channel. Usually I'm here Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday mornings from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. Depending on how I'm feeling and how busy my channel is. Sometimes I end early, sometimes I go late. Usually I do nostalgia gaming of like old school RuneScape, although I might do some Final Fantasy 14 this week. But bear with me if I do, because I've never gone through it before. So it'll
what
be
server are
completely.
you on?
Don't remember which server I grabbed, but I'll message you with it when I
Okay.
look it up.
I'm on Ultros, so if you play on the same server as I do, we can play together.
If nothing else, I can always
Sometimes,
make a character on Ultros because I haven't really
yeah,
played yet. So I can
yeah,
just speed through the intro again and
yeah.
play together, because that would be fun and that would be a great way for me to go. I mean, you're not going to be up at 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. playing every weeknight.
No, I won't be up at that block of time, but we could play at
No.
other times, other
At
hours.
other times, we could possibly find time to play,
Yeah,
and that would be good too. But if I play it on stream, it'll be from the 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. And that's here on this channel, which is the Gamer Seuss channel. Like I've said before, this channel is dedicated to Extra Life, which is part of the Children's Miracle Network, helping kids with long-term care conditions in hospitals like muscular dystrophy, cancer, cerebral palsy, end-stage renal disease, which
yeah.
I myself suffer of, although I'm not a child suffering, I'm 50 years old. But I'm young for that condition.
Yeah.
Um,
And
and and
I want to
then
make sure we get a.
we forgot something before we go.
Yeah.
We lost a great member of our gaming and nerd community here in Springfield this week. Brandon Shane, who works with VisionCon, and he's
Yeah.
very active in the nerd community,
Yeah.
died this
He
week.
was the president of Vision. He was the president for VisionCon, and just an overall
Great guy.
a great guy and a pillar of the geeky community of the Ozarks, really.
And
The whole
I didn't
area.
hear any details about it because all I saw was your post Was it COVID related?
Yeah. Yep.
Mm,
It was COVID.
yeah. So, and one of
Um.
the things that's you guys got to be careful about that we've got less than 50% of the Springfield area has gotten the vaccine. In fact, from what I heard today, statistically speaking, we have got the lowest compliance to vaccines in the nation.
Oh gosh.
So uh, be smart. I mean, it is still your choice to be vaccinated or not. I'm not going to say just do it because I said it, do it, but think about you and think about the people you're around. We've had over a 30% increase in COVID related incidents since the mask thing was lifted last week. So 30% in 1 week, people.
Yeah.
Uh,
And remember, it's not just about yourself; it's about your loved ones around you too.
Especially those
Um,
of us with compromised immune systems, like myself.
which is a
Uh,
lot more, which is a lot more higher percentage of the population than you might realize.
yeah, so whether you get the vaccine or not, I'm not going to press you to get the vaccine, but especially if you're not getting the vaccine, just because the mask ordinance has been lifted doesn't mean that you can't wear your mask. So I'm still wearing my mask part of the time out even though I'm fully vaccinated. For the most part, I carry my mask with me, and if I'm in a big enough group, I put my mask on, especially if most of them are going without their mask. Um, but just watch out for each other, and remember to tell the people you do care about that you love them or you appreciate them, because you never know if they're not going to be there tomorrow. I can't remember the last time I talked to Brandon, and now I regret that because he's a good kind of guy. I mean, he wasn't like a close friend, but I can't keep losing friends. It's
Yeah,
hard on me.
he,
He's
since the pandemic, I haven't seen him in person since the pandemic, but I've spoken
he
with him online a few times, in the last year.
in the last year and a half. He's the second VisionCon board member to die. His was directly COVID related, but